So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mount up this AU93, the window module, and this here is my dual zone shock sensor. I'm going to mount them both up onto this actual steering column. This outer piece here doesn't move, so there's no need to worry about steering knuckles, anything moving, because there is nothing. However, you want to have this thing accessible, so if you need to adjust this for either higher or lower sensitivity down the road, you want to have it accessible. And since there is a knee bolster, which covers here, I want to locate it lower down in there, that area. And also I need a place for this to go. So since Omega was so good enough to give me this gigantic wire tie, I'm going to try to make use of both of them on that one tie going around this column. So I already have my sensor pre-adjusted close to where I think it's going to need to be. And since this is pretty much the central location of the car, for one sensor, this is probably the best choice you could ever possibly make. If you have a choice, go for something that's solid and something as hard and rigid and as central on the vehicle as possible. So for me, this just makes a whole lot of good sense to put it on here. So I'm going to just kind of finesse these two components right to about where I want them to be. I want the window module up higher, and I want my sensor down lower, so that way I can get underneath here on my back and adjust that shock sensor if I ever need to. Pull that wire tie as hard as I can, and these components, you can see, they're on there. They are not moving. Just one wire tie does all that work for me. How cool is that? I mean, you can't beat that deal with a stick. So now, I got plenty of slack here from my two wires from my window module, my activation wire. This here is just extra slack from my shock sensor. Like I said, we're going to leave all the slack until later. No need to neaten it up yet. This one here is my radar sensor, my antenna, which we already installed later on. I'm going to leave this here as well. And we're just going to start moving along. Now, the next place I'm going to have to get to is underneath here where my body control module is located. That's where I'm going to locate a lot of this other stuff, my door locks, door trigger, what else we got here, factory disarm, you know, all that stuff. So we'll get to that. And next section, as well as my brake. I still have to do my brake. So my next connection is going to be at the brake pedal. And underneath here, there's two plugs. We got a 4-pin, which is insignificant, and the other one is a 2-pin. The wire we're looking for is going to rest it ground and switch to 12 volts when the brake pedal is depressed. This turns on the brake lights in the rear of the vehicle. So that's what we're going to connect onto right here. So this white one here is for my negative parking lights. This wire here is going to be for the trunk output. There's a little hole which the factory uses for the power trunk release. I suggest that you use the same. Always go with the factory. Never create your own path and routes for wires. Always go with an existing one. You'll never go wrong. Because it'll work for now, but then when you put everything back together and you find out something is causing problems and something's not fitting, that's going to most likely be the reason why. So there's for my trunk. Just for neatness sake, I'm going to double this one up. So when I put my underdash back on there, just plug it right in. Done deal. Over here, parking lights. I'm going to connect that just like I do all of my connections. Button this one up, insulate it, and I'm going to tape this harness and put it all back together the way it was. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to install the switch, which is an optional switch I put in there. And what this is for an override from my radar sensor, a proximity sensor, which I have located over here. This is going to go underneath the transmission hump towards the rear side of the rear seat. So this is going to detect motion around the vehicle if someone were to walk near it. But however, especially where we live here in Florida, we get these flash floods and these heavy rains and stuff like that. Even garage doors have been known to drive these things just crazy. So if that is the case, I want to have a way out for this customer in this car to have a way to shut it off. So this is just a simple, you know, open close kind of switch, toggle switch. And I'm using this. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these, but this here is called a Unibit. And what it is designed for plastic. It's a really super awesome tool, and it just really goes really well with vehicle installations. Because every step of the bit is pre-designed for use of just things just like we're doing right here today. And it makes a nice clean cut, as you can see. It's not like a, you know, standard metal drill bit. And these things are great. I've even used them in metal. You're not supposed to, technically, but I'd use them in metal all the time. And most professional installers do. It's just a thing that we do. So I'm going to mount this down here underneath this dashboard so that way she can bend down, flick this on and off as needed. I'm not going to complete the installation right now at this time because I still have to work, of course, down here. However, when I put this car back together, I'm going to leave this thing accessible, and this will be one of the very last components that I'll tighten up prior to getting this thing programmed.